Aotearoa, and welcome to Friday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect New Zealand. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz. And today we lead with news. Trump cancelled his latest planned military strikes, claiming negotiation progress with Iran. That has been enough to settle financial markets today. But first in the US, producer prices jumped 1.1% in May from April to be 6.5% higher than a year ago, and their highest since November 2022. And before the pandemic, their highest since this series began in 2009. Core producer prices were up 5.1% and a similar high. These rises were more than expected. US initial jobless claims also rose more than expected last week to 228,000, and more than seasonal factors would have indicated. There are now 1.69 million people on these benefits, less than a year ago and marginally less than 2 years ago. In Canada, building consents were expected to fall back in April after the spurt in March, but they fell much more than expected. Residential consents fell 5.5%, and commercial consents fell an outsized 10.5%, both from the prior month. From a year ago, though, these consent levels were 2.5% higher, but that is on a value basis, and construction PPI there rose 2.8% at the same time. In Europe, the ECB raised its policy interest rate by 25 basis points to 2.4% as widely expected, its first increase since 2023. It also raised its inflation expectation to 3% in 2026 and cut its growth forecast slightly to 0.8% this year and 1.2% in 2027. In Indonesia, their financial crisis is intensifying with their currency in free fall and their stock market too. The worry is that it may drive a social crisis at our back door. In Australia, the Melbourne Institute's survey of inflation expectations dipped in June to 5.5%, following a dip in May after they peaked at 5.9% in April. The June result was well below the 6.5% jump some expected. But remember, their fuel tax concession is expected to end at the end of this month. If it does, it could put upward pressure on consumer inflation. April actual CPI came in at 4.2%, and the May result will be released on June 24th. In contrast, wage expectations have remained unchanged for the past 7 months. And the World Bank said overnight that global growth is leaking away due solely to the Middle East handbrake. It now sees 2026 expanding at a 2.5% rate and 2027 at 2.8%. These are slowdowns from the 2025's 2.9% expansion, and the prospect is the slowest growth since the pandemic. Meanwhile, OPEC bravely says that world oil demand will recover quickly after the current Persian Gulf issues are resolved. Global container freight rates rose another 3% last week to be level with elevated rates of a year ago when the Houthis were threatening the Red Sea access. It is all about outbound rates from China to Europe. In fact, China to the US West Coast rates are holding, but much lower than a year ago. Bulk cargo rates fell 12% in the past week to be 68% higher than year-ago levels. And official forecasts are now certain enough to warn of a severe El Niño climate event starting soon. The US issued its official warning after Australia said the chances are rising. We're now being warned to expect 2026-27 to bring global risks of intense heat waves, sharp drops in rainfall in some key areas, but deluges in other parts. India is expected to get a weak monsoon. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now just on 4.45%, down 9 basis points for the day. And the price of gold has recovered $54 from yesterday to be at $4,152 an ounce. Silver's up $1.50 at $66 an ounce. But oil prices are down $5 from yesterday at just on $86.50 a barrel, while the international Brent price is now just on $89.50 a barrel. Hormuz transits are resuming today, with 69 in the past 24 hours as owners rush to get their ships out. And the Kiwi dollar is up 10 basis points from this time yesterday at just under 58.2 US cents. Against the Aussie, we're down 20 basis points at 82.7 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're little changed at 50.3 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just over 61.8, which is also little change from yesterday. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $63,223 and up 2.3% from yesterday. volatility of the past 24 hours has been moderate, at just under plus or minus 2%. You can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again on Monday.